Well, hello, this is Jenny Fern, and today I'd like to share with y'all a beginning of March garden tour. So I started filming this garden tour with the thought of I was just going to show the plants that had gone to seed or had bolted pretty much, because a lot of my brassicas right now are going to flower, including one of my kales. But I ended up filming a garden tour. So this first bit is my broccoli, some critters that I've made habitat for. I know that this is a pest, whatever this little beetle thing is, but it was all over my broccoli in the summer, and my broccoli is fine. So I don't think it really does anything too terribly to the plant. So that was arugula, and now this is my kale that is just now starting to go into flower, which is pretty exciting. I've never seen that before. This is just my second spring that we're coming into that I've gardened in, like besides maybe some radishes or something in the previous time. Well, a while ago. I'm already behind. So here are some potatoes, and here is a lettuce. This is my raised bed that has all of these brassicas in it. Here is a purple perennial collard, I believe. There's two of them quite close together, and one's doing better than the other. And I'm pulling up some arugula to mulch around and free up some light. This is cauliflower that's going to flower. Although, I don't know what's going on with it, because it's not like opening up blossom-wise. I also have sweet alyssum over back by those brassicas. This is some purple or red mustard, another potato, some garlic is around here, dock, I think it's curly dock, and Shasta daisies. Then I have lentils, a collard green, and some kale, and I think a radish in this front area. This is peas. As you can see here, I'm kind of letting these stay on the plant for as long as I can so that I can get seeds, and only one really seems to be making a pea inside of it. Those are fava beans. Down here we have chard. I think this might be a carrot. I really have no idea what that is. Some sort of carrot-like plant. And then we have more fava beans, a ton of arugula that is bolting or going to seed. I'm weeding again. You can see there's more Swiss chard over in this area. There's also a cabbage, which I'm not sure I mentioned. And I have this Garbanzo bean, which was planted in the summer and it's just now really starting to thrive and get huge and roam around all of these bolting plants. So here you can see it's quite tall, really, and is probably super shaded out by all of the plants around it. So then I have another lettuce hidden under the cabbage there, and some fava beans and some radishes. We'll see how those do. These are my younger peas, and they are starting to really burst into blossom right now. They look beautiful. And I have, I think, three younger peas in this bed. This is all a huge amount of arugula. Some potatoes are hidden in here. I don't know if they are still alive. They did get frost damage. And then we have some weeds and some of the mint that has spread around the bed. I think there's also a lettuce on the other side of this big, messy arugula bed. Here you can see more mint, more arugula. The diversity in this bed is smaller, and I'm not super happy with how this bed is doing. Here are some potatoes. This pea plant has been knocked by the wind several times, but it is still kicking and it has popped out its very first pea. So we will see how this goes in future weeks. More arugula, more potatoes. Feeding the potatoes with the arugula and the mint. Now that the arugula is kind of past its prime, I am using it to feed my other plants. This was, I believe, cauliflower grown from a trimming that rooted on the ground. I'm pretty sure that is a radish, although no radish is forming underneath. And this is mustard. I think I might have skipped. I also have celery and another mustard in the other garden bed. But my mustard is finally going to flower, and so I can get some seeds, which I'm quite excited about. And yes, here you can see a little potato, which has survived the frost that it wilted from. But look at how massive that mustard is. So these are bachelor's buttons. This is a little flower bed, and oh, I forget what this one's called. Sometimes it's called pot marigold. And then I have another pea, which had been knocked down by the fencing work that had been happening. It had been growing up a old dead sunflower, and that got knocked over. And then here are some, I believe these are perennial flowers, but I'm not sure. And this is an olive cutting and some rose cuttings and some lavender cuttings and a willow cutting. This is my little shady, weird patch of grass that I've decided to throw cuttings into, and my little apple seedling here has also gone into this spot. It's shady in winter, and in summer it gets crazy afternoon sun that just bakes the ground. So I'm trying. And another rose cutting. Everything that I thought had died, maybe late summer, early fall, is alive. And here we have some seedling plums or apricots. Here's my cat again. He literally follows me around the garden all the time, and it is so precious. Some more plums and or apricots. I think a lot of them are apricots. This, I believe, is a chicory, if I actually did plant it from seed. We have the, oh boy, I literally always forget the name of the stupid weed. Here's some fennel and some fava beans. That was my mimosa and some flowers that were here before I moved in, so I don't actually know what they're called, but those are popping up. This is a daikon that I'm letting go to seed, which is kind of exciting. And more fava beans that got kind of decimated by a really heavy sudden rain. But they're the only plant that really suffered. I don't know why. I also have arugula all over this area as well that is now going to flower. More fava beans. And then I have another little kind of puny daikon, a radish over there, and my 2 artichokes that are over on this side yard. And here I have an apricot or a plum. I don't know. And some potatoes. I have 3 potatoes over in this area, and then I have 2 canna lilies that I transplanted over into this area. So we'll see how those go. This is another plum/apricot, and this is an apple, and that's in the leaf mulched little area. Another fava bean. This one's kind of sad and puny because it is literally just plugged into the grass. More arugula. That one looks beautiful. I really want to spread the seed from that one because that one's really gorgeous. Has beautiful leaves that I really like. Lentils and other seedlings that are popping up in this area that we'll see what they turn into. This is a rose grown from a cutting. I thought all of the things that I had shoved in here as cuttings had kind of conked out because the fencing kind of buried them, as you can see in this area. But they're still alive, which is amazing. Rose cuttings are super resilient. And look at that. I didn't even think that that was alive. And then a bunch of lentils and some flower seeds, that kind of thing. More fava beans. Now we're in the front yard. And this is a shot on my phone, so hopefully it's okay. Another little baby tree, apricot or plum that I put in the front yard. Onions are all over here. This is an orange tree. It's a navel orange. This is a rose cutting. And then again, you can see all of these onions. This is my cat. More onions, more onions. This is some flower. I think it's a perennial flower. It looks all funky. Some strawberries that had come up from runners, from some strawberries that a coworker was giving away because they had come up from runners. And so I have these plugged in here. They're a little bit buried by the mulch, but they seem to be doing okay. More onions. Here's a ladybug. There's a lot of ladybugs in the front yard. I think they really like the fava bean environment because there are ants that are farming aphids on the fava beans, and then the ladybugs like it. So this is onions growing next to my house. I know that that's probably a concern because of lead and that they're onions, so they're a root crop, so it's like extra bad. I don't know what I'm going to do about it. And here is another mimosa. We will see how it does. Plus some, I think, bachelor's buttons or some other type of flower. My perennial kale is growing flowers. Oh boy, I forgot what we just saw, but this is a California poppy. And then I have like this little tree that a bird planted or a bush or something, so I'm going to let that grow. I think that might be cabbage. These are fava beans. Lots of fava beans. I really want to have dry fava beans. Here you can see that some of the stalks just kind of die. They wilt and die and flop over. This is a lemon tree. I think it's a Meyer lemon. And I have peas. The 2 citrus trees in the front yard, my parents gave to me as a housewarming present when we moved in. And they were planted into the front yard before we even turned it into a mulched, amazing garden. So they were there when the grass was there. Fava beans. Did I mention the pea that I was putting up, the dead sunflower? Here's a rose grown from cutting that is doing super well. And there's this weed, I think it's like something buttercup, that is the most vigorous version of that weed that I've ever seen. But they both seem to be growing really well, so I'm just going to leave them both together. A different type of fava bean, I got the seeds from my old place. I think that's another perennial green. This it's some sort of brassica seedling. More onions, more onions. This is a olive grown from cutting. There's some lavender. And here are some radishes. The radishes that are still in the front beds, that was a garbanzo bean. So the radishes that are still up in the front beds, I'm letting go to seed, and then I will disperse the seeds. These are herbs, so like parsley and sage and fennel and dill. I think mostly that's what's popping up there. These are weeds. So I'm doing some weeding impromptu. This is what I do if I see them. I just pull them up and let them cover up the soil and feed the soil. This whole dirt area was covered in gravel that I dug out with a little spade and transported to the side where I have that little gravel path. That's why I have a little gravel path there, is because this bed was full of gravel. And so the dirt is uncovered. It's not mulched, which I would like to mulch it or just sow it so thickly that it doesn't need to be covered in mulch in order to prevent evaporation. So this is the plan. More herbs, more radishes, more onions, and more roses from cuttings. I also thought these rose cuttings had died, but look at how vigorously growing they are. I did have some vine plant thing that had died. Another rose grown from a cutting. And here I have some legumes. So fava beans you can see because they're huge, and then some various radishes and brassica type things, and I don't know, bunch of little seeds in there, and we will see how they do. We did have a little bit of a dry spell, and the ground got really hard because it is not mulched over there. This is a pea plant, and this is a cardoon. It's kind of funny. I realized that there was like a weed stuck to the backside of the cardoon because it's such a fuzzy leaf. And now heading back to the backyard, there are a few little areas that don't have a ton growing in them, but will probably in the springtime. There's this little flower bed on the path to the fence that has some calendula, sweet alyssum, tree mallow, and it has a bunch of seeds that were plugged into there throughout the autumn when I had flower seed heads that were dried up. And here we have some mustard, some sweet alyssum, a rose that is encroaching. I actually trimmed that back recently after filming this. Then there are some other flowers, another tree mallow. In here, I've plugged in some beans, so we'll see if those start coming up. I have fava beans and beets and kale. The beets and kale are going to be going to seed soon, at least hopefully. And then here I have some of the cannas, and that was herbs. Here's some strawberries, some violets, I believe, mint and rosemary. And here is a somewhat dormant box. And then here again, we have some wildflowers. So there's some yarrow and other wildflowers. And then we have the grapes, which are starting to have little buds. It's very exciting. And that is it. I hope you enjoyed this little tour, and thank you so much for watching.